Calling all Autobots!
32 Alpha, take 4, Samantha.
We on the set of Transformers 7. It's going down. Hang on tight. Strap in. It's about to be epic. It's about to be crazy. It's about to be epically crazy.
The transwarp key. After 7 long years stranded on Earth, we finally found a way home.
I was a huge fan of Transformers as a kid, so that's where it all started for me. Like my first introduction was the actual movie, the Transformers movie back in the 80s.
I think that for many people it's childhood attachment, but I think also there's this idea that your car has a personality and can talk to you. Is just a fascinating idea.
We make a great team.
It's a little campy in terms of the robots, but it's sort of self-aware, but it also takes itself very seriously at the same time.
The stories are so big, the action is so boundless. It's just an amazing area to get to play in.
We wanted to build something that was going to be epic in scope and kind of be a throwback quest movie that we all grew up with.
The transwarp key is our only way home.
If this dude gets a hold of that thing, it's game over for Earth.
A cool time period, a movie set in the 90s. We had the 80s with Bumblebee.
Is there anyone that can help you? Do you have a family?
Well, one of the interesting things about Bumblebee was,
Me.
while people seem to have really loved the movie, a lot of the fan base was not entirely happy with the scale of it. It was very intimate, and it was consciously intimate. And there was one refrain that came out of a large group of them, which was, where's the explosions? Where's all the stuff?
So it was a lesson to learn that, and coming into this movie, while bigger is better in terms of spectacle, what is more important than that is that people care about those characters and their successes in those set pieces.
Add heart and spectacle and really make sure the two stuck together.
Listen, I can't have someone like you mess up what I built.
Someone like me.
Growing up in Brooklyn, and the people that live there are not often represented in movies like this. So we were looking for a new faces. And Anthony was the first one we seized on.
He's a soldier.
He does not look like a soldier.
He's a New Yorker. He grew up in New York. He did not have a straight path or an easy path into acting. He was somebody who, like our Noah character, was struggling for a long time to figure out what was his purpose. And he's from Brooklyn, and he has this affection for that city. So he brings authenticity, his voice, his accent, his swagger, the way he carries himself is all authentically New York City.
And I was like, wow, this dude's a really physical actor. Like the way he uses his traits, he has a unique charm and a level of vulnerability that's really hard to find.
I said more than anything, I really want to bring heart to this film. I want people to not only care about the robots, but to care about the humans, and to care about the relationship between the humans and the robots. These two species that should never be connected at all. Isn't that like a message for the world, right? Like there's a common ground between everyone, really. We all have something in common, no matter where we come from.
You know this thing?
Yeah, we're just work friends.
Work friends?
Originally, the film was for a Puerto Rican kid out in Queens, New York. And then when we cast it, it was only right, since Anthony Ramos was from Brooklyn, that we're like, we should make it Brooklyn. And then it just so happened that Dominique Fishback was also from Brooklyn, and we're like, well, this is like the perfect sort of mix now.
It's not some Egyptian god, it's something else.
Really, when I went into this and I was like talking to Steven about this, I was like, we have to prove why we need the humans, why humans are important. It's all about humanity, you know, and all about hearts and feelings. And so how do you get that emotion if Mirage can't cry or Eraser can't cry? You get it from the people.
And so I remember talking to Anthony one day and saying, hey, the one I want, her name is Dominique Fishback. And he goes, me and Dominique go way back. Like, we're really close friends. And I was like, wait, what?
Dominique was somebody that Steven had been eyeing for a while. Then you looked at her body of work, and everything you saw was quality. And so we thought it was an interesting combination. Then you had to do the kind of chemistry read, and they had great chemistry together, and they clearly respected each other. And we were lucky enough they both wanted to do it.
She grew up in East New York, then I grew up in Bushwick. It's cool. We added a line in the movie, lines in the movie with us actually stating where we're from in real life and making our characters from those places.
Well, Steven, you know, he's never done a movie of this kind of scale, and one of the things that we were looking for was to really dial in a different version, just as we did a bit with Bumblebee, but this is even more.
I've done a drama, my first feature. I did a fighting film with Creed 2. And now stepping into Transformers, you're like, okay, there's a whole different set of muscles that I've never even worked before.
Steven's vision is basically an emotional drama set against the backdrop of an alien war.
You got a huge movie, takes place in different parts of the world, a lot of robots and machines and aliens. And so at this point, you just want to make sure there's that human connection where people are like, I could connect to Noah, I could connect to Chris, I connect to Toby, I connect to Elena.
Oh, cool, you're still alive.
Steven, culturally, he's coming from a different spot. So to put this in the hands of somebody like Steven, who comes from that background and also is younger and has a fresh perspective, was a way for us to know that this would feel different from the other movies.
Every project that I basically say yes to and or create or get involved with has a piece of me in it. Like, I first read the script and I go, there goes the story. Then I go, what do I have to say? And is there me on the table? And if not, how can I incorporate myself? And so I really pull from personal things around me that I'm either going through or transitioning in with life, some part of my childhood, and so it becomes very personal. And I think you need that, especially with big films like this, where the scope is so huge and long hours on set, trying to create this. You need that motivation throughout to say, okay, I am saying something. Okay, there is a part of me on this tape. I think people are really going to enjoy this. I want to connect to my audience.
To the larger world. And of course, that's the perfect time to go on an adventure with the Transformers.
Yeah, I'm walking to Peru.
I was enchanted with the fact that it was set in 1994. The soundtrack that you're dealing with, the cars that you get to play with.
This is Brooklyn, 1990s. I was born in the 90s, so I'm excited.
I was raised in the 90s. Everything that I really put into the film was just stuff that was very specific to how I grew up. We paid homage to that era by allowing the music and the people and the vibrancy of colors, all that stuff sort of come into play.
The youth today, they're very aware of 94. So there's so much like retro images online now. I was just Googling everything that I could.
Granted, I was just an itty bitty pup in the 90s, but I still remember that vibe. I still remember the pulse.
I like that. I like it a lot.
Right in the opening of the film, he's working on a cable box and he's trying to burn it to get illegal cable.
Show me the money, show me the money.
And the movie Juice pops up on the screen, which is a classic of the 90s, you know, and it has Tupac Shakur and Omar Epps in it. So you're instantly just drawn into that era right off the rip as soon as the movie starts by using sort of the pop culture at the time.
After a conference with Simpsons attorney Howard Weitzman.
This movie and Bumblebee both were basically flashbacks. I mean, the other movies took place when they shot in the 2000s. Bumblebee was in 1987. This movie's in 1994. It gave us the opportunity for a whole new array of music and fashion and the look of New York in that period.
We went to New York to do a little mini scout, and we realized that New York doesn't even look like New York in 1990s, right? So we had to also dress New York to look like New York, but in the 90s era, and that went from everything on the production side and even
that are no longer there that we needed to put back in, but also the ones that have been built over or that, you know, are new structures, you know, because there's a lot of architecture and a lot of change that's happened in the last 25 years.
You say that like it's weird. It's super weird.
You know what's weird? Marky Mark is leaving the Funky Bunch.
Well, it was important for Steven to have real ads, like real products that fill the background. Taxi cabs and buses and posters from movies were something that was fun to, you know, find. Paramount was super cooperative with that. That was great. It does give you a good sense of when this was happening.
Life ain't a comic book.
You get the next one.
Yo, there is no next one. No one's coming to save us. We're alone in this.
In New York in the 90s, subway cars, you know, were covered with this graffiti. It's really like something you don't see anymore. So we had an artist create graffiti for us, and then our painters were like, to begin with, replicating those on the sets. And after a while, they were like so good at it, they were just going and tagging along, and they make it look creepy or want to make it look sad, or it wasn't that at all. Like Steven really wanted just to embrace the fact that people, you know, were living outside in the streets, and it was part of their world. And he was quite precise on what he wanted there, and he had a lot of references when we came in the project. We had a bunch of images that were sent to us from Steven directly of like things he wanted from his childhood.
I was born in the 80s and I was raised in the 90s. And so literally everything in the film is stuff from my childhood growing up. Everything from the posters on the wall, the type of music we're playing.
You got a Robin mixtape?
I got a liberating mixtape.
The clothes that Noah and Chris are wearing, like legit are clothes that you would probably find in my child pictures when I was a young kid.
Steven, when he first got the call that he was gonna do this project, he let me know it was gonna be about 1994 in New York. Instantly, I'm like, oh, well, no wonder Steven's working on this. It's Transformers, but it's also a little something different that we might not have seen, like going into Brooklyn in that time period.
Fashion was like a huge piece of this thing, because we didn't want to go overboard. Neither did we want to be cliche. We wanted to be as real and grounded as possible, but also just take you down memory lane.
For Dom's introduction look, we wanted to go with what would be the most 90s silhouette you can think of.
Intern. I paged you 3 times. Why didn't you call me?
I figured if I stopped the call, that would make me later.
She's really book smart, so we thought that suspenders would be the best vibe for that. At first, Steven was against the suspenders. He thought it would feel a little forced for the 90s. But once he saw it on her, it was just like, oh, this is a no-brainer.
Who are you?
I'm, the janitor.
For Noah's look, there's no point where we wanted anyone to feel like they're just looking at the clothes and not the person.
Yeah, I ironed this for you. Already ironed it. Like you cooked those eggs?
So we definitely dialed back on the bagginess. We couldn't go too crazy with that. But we do have a starter jacket that we're really excited about. That starter was super helpful in bringing that to life with us. We created it from scratch. We made it here in Montreal.
When doing research for the film, a lot of it was just pulling from, again, my upbringing, even Anthony's, Dom's. We were all sort of born around that same age. We're in the same age group. So we just talked about what was really popular during that time and what was specific to this culture, you know, especially the urban culture. And I think it really came out really well, you know, in terms of us capturing the 90s.
There you go. Now we're friends.
Autobots, roll out!
Yeah, that's exactly how he sounds.
I think the audience is going to go for a thrill ride in this one. You know, I feel like the audience is not just going to watch the film. I think they're definitely going to experience it. You know, I feel like we spent a lot of time diving into the characters so that they can care about them. So as they're going through this big action sequences, I think they're really going to feel emotionally connected to all the characters in the film.
The name's Mirage.
Mirage, who's really our new character who has the most screen time, who will be probably the fan favorite or the crowd favorite in this movie. We've never had Porsche in these movies before.
They run really great, and they work good at high altitude. Turbocharged Porsches that are very performance-oriented, and Porsche was really helpful and gave us 5.
The rounded edges of that car and the beauty of the design and how that converts into a robot form, I think that's going to really make that character stand out.
Mirage 3.8 RS Carrera is just too cool. And having created so much of this, then being able to see these incredible actors come in and give those characters even more life is amazing.
Cross my spark and hope to die. Wow, that was corny when I said it out loud.
Because Pete Davidson could be off the wall. And so when he came into the room, I had this script, and I'm like, this is the direction we're going, but I want you to bring you to the table. And so he would improvise. He brought all that to the table that just wasn't there in the script, and that's pretty much Pete Davidson.
Energy's right, though. Pete Big is definitely better on this one.
All right. Optimus! Hey, man! You looking good. Wait a second. Are those new rims?
A lot of the times when you come into these movies, you see the Autobots are all very much in lockstep with Optimus Prime, but coming in from a standpoint where Optimus Prime is still learning to be that leader, we thought it would be interesting to have a character that sort of questions his authority along the way, that in a way identifies more with the humans than he does even his own kind.
The character of Mirage in the lore in the book has this incredible backstory that's totally different from everybody else's. You know, on Cybertron, he was kind of a high-class guy. He had money, he was, you know, he had flair, he had flash. And even though we don't get into that, it very much translates in his character and the way he carries himself, the fact that he's this badass, you know.
He's a little cooler than these other, you know, by the book kind of guys.
Right.
Mirage was the first character that I ever spoke to Steven about. The first thing that Steven referred me to was the Tyler Durden character from Fight Club.
Oh, right. That tracks, yeah.
Slightly schizophrenic. You never know what he's gonna say. He's probably gonna say something inappropriate.
Just don't ask what part of my body it came from.
But he's really kind of a nice guy. You know, he's the friend that you want to have, but you don't always want to have around.
Wu-Tang is in the building, baby.
Way to be incognito.
Peter Cullen, he's the voice of Optimus Prime.
You brought a human here?
Just really nice guy. Like, you want to think, all right, here goes this star, and when you walk in the room, you're like, do you know who you are? You're Peter Cullen. You know, like, you're a legendary Optimus Prime, and he does not act that way at all. You know, a very humble guy.
We must retrieve the other half before he does.
Cullen gets behind that mic. You see his eyes sort of dim, and he goes deep into Optimus Prime mode. You're like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, all that is coming from this guy who's like 5'5" or something like that. And it's just like, but he speaks like a giant.
I'm going to take back Scourge's key and then take off his head.
In the Optimus design, we are very firmly in the G1 universe. The cab over is not the Peterbilt with the long nose. You know, it's a Freightliner with a flat nose.
When you take into account the timeline, Optimus has been here ostensibly since 1987. And we have treated it as it's not going so great. He's missing Cybertron. He's questioning why he left, et cetera. And so you get to watch the maturation, really, in many ways, of a new version that you are more familiar with when you get to the Bay films. But here you get to see kind of how he got there.
B, I do not want you going to that drive-in theater anymore.
I would say with B, we try to stay faithful in his character to his history. Aesthetically, you know, he's an entirely new design. It's not a wild deviation from what he's been before, but, you know, he's a more period-represented version.
Okay, the energy surge we felt was in the 4,000 yard-hertz range.
I was excited to see RC. I just think she's flipping cool, and some of the stunts that end up getting worked out with her are amazing.
RC, she has more natural curvature to her because she's based on the Ducati bike. But once we got her in and we modeled her in 3D and we started seeing her in shots, then we dove back in and we started cutting harder angles on her. We started removing some of the curves, making her a little bit stronger, trying to make her into a proper warrior.
Well, he is a plane.
No, don't tell me we're flying on. Oh, no.
Stratosphere, the concept behind him was that he's this sort of World War II airplane. He's had his days in battle, so he's constantly got bits that are rattling. His wings never fly straight, but you know, when you need somebody to come and pick you up, you know, he's that kind of safe uncle that'll come and pick you up from the party and take you to the other place.
Wheeljack needs to fix that power steering. Sorry, I'm late.
Wheeljack was, again, a new character, the kind of nerdy character in the corner. If there's a fight, he's in, but he's gonna be the first guy to get taken down and end up, you know, behind a rock. But, you know, he also helps them to crack the clues and make their way to where they need to go.
Stand down!
Optimus Prime doesn't like humanity. He distrusts humanity.
At this point.
And then they meet the Maximals, who have a completely different relationship with humans.
They have been on Earth and seen the rise of mankind. They were there before, and they watched them grow, and they shared technology, things like pyramids and structures that are sort of incomprehensible in their complexity. So they have a respect for humankind that our Autobots do not have yet in 1994.
Optimus Primal is a very noble character, and he's very much connected to the human beings on Earth.
There's a legend that precedes the dawn of our civilization. Tales of a vile god in the form of a machine.
Ron Perlman came about because, one, it's Ron Perlman, the legend, and two, he actually was Optimus Primal in a cartoon before. And so when I brought him in and had a conversation with him, he was like, man, I'll be glad to actually voice Optimus Primal again. He had ideas too that he would want to, make a little different from what he had in the cartoon. So already I felt like we had this sort of like, all right, we both are accepting the challenge of making Primal really stick out on screen.
Sorry about scaring you, brother.
Scared? Please, I'm not scared. That's just engine oil.
We've got Cheetor, who's a quadruped who can run like lightning. We're really trying to use nature as a reference, so their fighting styles match their animal forms. He'll take somebody down, but he'll roll with them, like, the classic National Geographic shots we've all seen where you see the cat running across the plain, and he takes down an antelope, and they roll and tumble, so recognizable. Rhinox, who is our strong man, doesn't have a lot to say, but you can lean on him whenever you get into a situation where you need someone just to barge their way through.
Remember our oath, Primal, no matter the cost.
Airazor, that's my best friend. Nurturing, wise, she'll take you under her wing, pun intended.
So when casting Michelle Yeoh, it just felt like she already embodied Airazor. And what I mean by that is Michelle Yeoh carries this sense of regalness with her. She's Michelle Yeoh. She's a legendary actress, and she has this very soft demeanor. Like, she can really pull you into a scene dramatically, but at the same time, she's a fighter.
Beasts we were always afraid of because it's a completely different form, robotic form. They have fur, they have skin, they're not always pieces of metal. Sliding, shifting, transforming. We also always wondered, honestly, as we did when we made the first movie, would people laugh at that? Would they think it's a bridge too far from the Transformers they know, which is just metal robots, right? But we did not grow up on Beast Wars. When Steven heard Beast Wars, he grew up on that part of the franchise and loved it and completely bought into it. So in a way, he gave us the courage to...
Giant metal men and women talking to you and saying things that just blow your mind. I think there's this sense of awe when you first see something like that, and fear. And then the question is, if they're not trying to kill you, then...
Those ones aren't with me.
Rips of flesh from their bones. You fought bravely, but this world is already mine.
There's a legend that precedes the dawn of our civilization. Tales of a vile god in the form of a machine, so large and so powerful that it consumed entire planets as fuel.
The world doesn't know this yet. We haven't released it in our trailers, but Unicron is in our film.
Awaken my dark master.
There's always been Unicron. He's the devourer of planets. He needs to feed on Energon to stay alive and to be able to convert more good guys into bad guys.
It's the ultimate big bad. For me as a fan, as well as so many other fans out there, there was always this hope that eventually Unicron would become part of the larger Transformers universe.
My hunger is killing me.
Few believed such a thing could be true, until the day we saw Unicron with our own eyes.
The toughest thing about Unicron really is his scale. He is a planet-eating planet. As a planet, it's a really difficult thing to convey personality, okay?
Excuses! Complete the key, or else you will wish you had died with the rest of your planet.
And So the Unicron graphic novel was really a big, huge influence on what I wanted to bring to the franchise. With the colors and how I wanted to implement this sort of godlike figure all really came from the graphic novel and the old 1986 cartoon movie.
I grew up with the animated movie, and so the first scene of that is just iconic in terms of Unicron approaching from the distance and seeing that giant planet basically as a bad guy. He has his own agenda, his own personality, his own character, and those that work for him or with him similarly have their own agenda and bring in this whole larger Transformers universe.
We got new villains, you know, you got the Terracons who are more powerful than the Decepticons, you know, and you got Scourge.
Nightbird, search the island. Finally, the hunt draws to a close.
Our lead villain is Scourge, and he is a nasty piece of work. He is very odd-looking in many ways, almost tentacle-feeling like, and sharp edges.
So he's quite a rusty character. There's nothing shiny on him.
They made this incredible truck out of him. It looks like a truck from hell. It's got chains and all black, dripping with stuff and these crazy stacks that go everywhere.
No one will remember this pathetic planet, and no one will remember you.
He's a Terracon, which is different than the Decepticons. This movie is the Terracons and the Predacons. The Predacons are the natural enemy of the beasts.
Maximals, Autobots, roll out!
So the Terracons and the Predacons are going to gang up against, if you would, the Autobots and the beasts. Battletrap is a Terracon, and Nightbird is a Terracon.
Scourge, I have eyes on the key.
The idea around the Terracons is that they're servants to basically Unicron.
Protect the key. Don't let them get...
Unicron does actually possess a power and energy, which is called Dark Energon. And so he can recruit from different planets as he's moving along. He actually has an offer for different planets. He's like, you can either join me or I'm gonna demolish your planet. And so Scourge is one of those who accepted the offer and became part of the Terracons. And so he has this unique power that's driven by the Dark Energon that's inside Unicron. It's the actual polar opposite of the energy that's inside of Optimus Prime, which is light energon from Primus himself. And so when they actually combat Autobots versus the Terracons, they're going against this energy that they just cannot, like, overcome.
Prime comes at him, and he just can't hit him. He's kind of a combination of Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali. We know Prime, we know what he's capable of. We've seen him fight. When he comes up against Scourge, he just can't catch the guy. And Scourge plays them, he dances, and then he takes him down with one blow, and you're like, damn, this guy's serious.
I enjoy that look of confusion. You have such a beautiful world, filled with an abundance of life.
I wanted a bad guy who could be scary, intimidating, but yet had this like sense of intelligence in how he talks and how he speaks. And Peter Dinklage is that already. And so when he came in, he just brought this really dark character. And when we were in this booth and trying to find the right voice, he was like, I want to make sure though that, yes, he's dark, yes, he's big, yes, he's scary, but he's not dumb. He's smart, and he's always one step ahead of you, and that's how he maneuvers. He really tried to embody Scourge, and he really pulled from a lot of the Scourge designs. Like, he would look at the design itself and say, okay, what are his parts? What's moving on him? So he can get a feel of how to project his voice and who is he standing over and what they're looking at.
When we heard the voice, Peter Dinklage's VO, a lot of the inflection and what he does, we then had to readjust how we would perform with him. When we do see Scourge take a hit, you can see that he's sort of enjoying the pain process a bit and that he finds strength in that rather than feelings of defeat. It's again, just all to feed into the formidability of the character and to make sure that he feels like somebody that Prime may never be able to take down.
Wait, didn't I kill you already?
No, I'm the Maximal that's going to rip out your spark.
We'll see about that.
He's also got a myriad of weapons. The Claw also has a kind of supercharged gun within it, which allows him to take down B. It can be used as a weapon to skewer, stab, pitchfork somebody, and can coil into a cone to actually penetrate somebody, and then he can supercharge blast them with that.
Benefits of serving the almighty Unicron.
He also has the ability to fire weapons that have infections built within them, which he does with Air Razor in the film. So it's not so much a tracking device, but it's something that he can fire and he can infect someone's body with it so that they erode over time, and he brings them over to the dark side.
He's in my mind.
He has these things called sweeps.
Kill the other human.
The sweeps are part of his anatomy. So his back opens up and these little creatures come out, and they're kind of like his hounds of war. They're small little fighters that he can deploy to go into small spaces that he can't get into. Along with him, he's got two other characters. He's got Battletrap, who in design is probably the most classic Transformer, and he is just a war machine. He's the berserker of the group.
Someone give me a real fight!
He's built for fighting and not much else.
I'm getting really tired of you humans.
Nightbird is a female character. She's very, very strong. She's quite elegant in her movement, but also just very fierce in her ability to fight.
Nightbird is the villainess of the picture, who's really a vicious character. She's really quite heartless.
Good. Maybe we'll get a real fight.
This is the Terracons. We got Nightbird, who's a Nizan. She's the lady of the Terracons, if you will.
We must protect the humans.
She has wings, she can fly. She's got torque packs so that she can jet off. She's taken on a bit of a ninja persona, so she's got two blades that she can use. She's got throwing stars she can use.
So soon.
In their own individual ways, each one of them has probably a greater arsenal and a larger number of strengths in the fighting realm to be able to face up to a larger group of Autobots.
Think we can hold these guys? Oh, no!
It takes the combination and the collective cooperation of the Autobots and the Maximals to win this war.
I can give you everything you want. I will end you, Scourge. That is a promise. Prime.